Okay, my friends, this is really kind of exciting for me because I have two new Australian friends now that are willing to go out and collect things and see things up close and personal like this. Nobody can explain this. It's unexplainable. And this is in the Australian Outback, and Adam Roos sent me a ton of pictures. We've been in contact together because another guy, Rob Humphreys, who is in Australia, sent me Adam's video about this and said, can you understand this? And I said, whoa, not really. Well, yes and no. I'm working on it. And I do understand to a degree it's biology. Of that I am absolutely 100% certain, and I will show you why. And this is the beauty of having somebody that will go out and do this. Look at how close I can get to this. These tiles, nobody understands, but look at this. I understand them to some degree. You see all that little stuff in there? That's fascia. And that's the same thing that's on this, which is a lung. And this thing goes like this all the time. And this kind of fascia is on the stretchable, type of fabric that's in your body. Everything is covered by a membrane. Some membranes don't move. They just, like your pancreas and your liver and so forth, it doesn't do this all day long. Your heart does. Your your lungs do. Your kidneys got to do this quite a bit. Mine does it all the time. Now, this is that kind of fabric. Where is this in the body of this creature? I'm going to tell you, this is a creature's body. Nobody's going to be able to convince me anything different. And I can show you. See this here? What is this? I don't know. But I'm going to tell you, that's some kind of tissue. And this right here is some kind of blood vessels right in there. Blood has to service everything. And this right here, that's not just an accident either. You see these? And nobody built this. This is basically what I see in the structure of a heart, where the heartstrings come down from the valve. Could be. I don't know. That's what I thought at first, this was the muscle type out, somewhere around the heart, and this fed off, and this is all blood. Basically, this is blood. You see that stuff? That's how blood, it's channels a little bit, and then the blood sort of collects around the channels. It's obvious once you understand mud fossils, and it's very, very obvious. And I have gigantic. Well, here it is, right here. Hold on. Oh, this baby's heavy. You call it ironstone. Well, we call it ironstone because it's made out of iron, basically. You see this stuff? That's the same sort of thing you're looking at here. See that? That's just blood. That's 100% blood. And that right there, I had to polish that so I could put it in a microscope to see I could see exactly the layers of an artery that are in that artery. This is bigger around. And I'll show you that. I think I have shots of that. But this, I am 100% sure, is the fascia. See that? That's exactly what fascia looks like. It's exactly. There's little tiny balls. And they have straps running all over. Well, I guess I got to get my belt out again. Okay, now I want you to pay real close attention to the details. It's always the details. Now, what do we see here? We see these bricks. And they look like regular bricks, but what do we see on the surface of them? You see all these little fibery looking things? Little black dots all over the place and all these little fibery looking things. Well, what is that all about? And is there anything else we can see in there that's of any importance? Well, first of all, let's work with the dots and the little black balls that are here and there. Let's start with that. Okay, my friends, this is really good. This is from Adam Roos. He's Australian History Seeker on YouTube. And another guy in Australia, Rob Humphreys, sent me his video showing this. And he said, can you explain this? What do you think this is? And I said, wow, I've never seen anything like it. So all I had was these shots from his video, and I really couldn't see a lot of the great details. However, Adam gets a hold of me, who did this video, and he sent me a ton of shots. And I mean, I can get up and lick the surface of these things with the shots. Look at this. This is the original one that I saw, and I said, wow, these just look like bricks. I don't know what to think. Well, now that I have somebody that can go right up and touch these things, look at what he sent me. Look at this. And I got a ton of them. Look at how close I can get now. What do you see here now? That's not just a brick. What is it? What is it that now? You see all those fibers? That's not just a brick. I understand those fibers. And then he also sent me other things that like the belly of a crocodile. It could even look similar to the belly of a crocodile, which is possible. I can't dismiss that. But at first I thought this was a heart. And the reason I did was because of this over here. Well, a lot of reasons, but this over here looks almost like a heart valve. And they have these little things coming out of them that are the heart strings. And they come down out of the valves and so forth, and they're in that area, and I can see everything sort of wrapping around. And I don't know what to think at this moment, but he sends me a lot of stuff, and he has sent me a lot of stuff, and he's offered to send me more. But I do have a feeling, well, I'm almost, I'm 100% sure in my mind, this is biology right there. That's biology. That's blood in this stone. And I have the same thing. They all have little blood vessels. And this is eroded blood, as I think I have shown you, or I will show you again anyway. It's the same as this stuff right here, which is eroded blood from a gigantic artery. That's an artery. That side's just completely eroded out, well, down that deep. But it's the same stuff. It's blood. That's blood. That is the blood. Now, and I polished this down so that I could see this in the microscope, and it is exactly identical. Well, it's an artery, so it's identical to an artery. So that's just the way that works. If it is, it is, and it is, so it is. And I have bricks similar to this right here. I'll show you everything. But this texture here that I just showed you, that little gooey looking stuff that's on there, that is what is in fabric of anything that has to stretch and move. And it's in my mind, this is pleura. Pleura, you see these little balls everywhere, and then there's these little strappy looking things. What's that all about? Same as this. This is a lung, and a lung has to do this and this and this all day long. So the balls and straps are in here. Now, I got my belt, so let's take a look at the belt. It's exactly the same stuff as this. Identical. All right, pay close attention. This is eroded, so you're seeing the straps. The straps are tough. Well, all right, don't forget this is what we're looking at now. I'm going to go up to the microscope, and I have my belt in the microscope. It's a perfect example of what we're looking at. I mean, it's skin. And skin has these balls. Now, I just barely have the light on now so you can see the contrast. These balls, these black balls, they have been crushed because that's what they do when they tan a hide. They soak it in all kinds of things, and then they roll it flat and crush it. And these balls are broken. Now, they're broken. They broke their balls. Now, this little whitish stuff, I'm going to turn the light up, is the fabric. You see it? No, I'm getting brighter and brighter and brighter. That's the fabric that attaches to those balls. Now, you would never see that. You don't see the fabric here. However, where let me show you what the difference is between this, where it hasn't, the fibers aren't pulled out yet, to where the fibers are pulled out. We can see them, and each one of them attaches to a black ball. All right, so here we are on the belt, the black balls, the fibers. Now, I'm going to go to one of the buckle holes, and you can see where the straps, they're all attached, but they're pulling out because the fiber. Now, the thickness of that, I'm going to try to twist it a little sideways so you can see. You see this thickness of, hold on, let me focus it. Give me a second. There we go. You see the thickness of the belt? This whole belt is made of these fibers. You see all those fibers? They're everywhere. Every one of them attaches to one of these black balls, and there is a zillion black balls in there. And the ones on the surface, these ones here are all crushed, because that's how they make the hide malleable. So, you know, and then made a belt out of it. Now, let me show you what it looks like on the side. I think well, I'm going to try to show you a better shot of the black balls, because on the side they don't get crushed. Okay, my friends, this goes so far beyond incredible, it's amazing. This is literally the surface of the skin, which is the outside layer of the tanned belt. And then it makes where the membrane is right here, which really would be the fluid-filled highway. Right there, do you see that colored, that line? Then below that is all the interstitium balls and all the straps, which there's one little strap coming out here, but primarily they're coming down the bottom because that's where it was split. It's called split cowhide. And all these little black balls are in the same as the ones I showed you, looking up under there. Now, if I turn the light on, you won't be able to see, but up under there are all those black balls. They're just, the whole thickness is so that this can stretch and do this. But look at this. This is just beyond belief. When I saw this, I just flipped out, because this is the top layer of skin. You see how it folds and it wraps and folds and it wraps? That's so you can stretch and pull this way and that way. That's a folding layer of skin, basically. I got to show you something that it freaked me out big time. Now, all in here, there is actually layers below this. Anyway, where do you see this? The world is much different than you thought, my friends. Okay, my friends, this is really very, very cool. This, again, is my belt, and these are all the fibers, all the little balls and so forth that held on to them. Now, here again is the bricks from my friend Adam. And Rob and Adam now, they're in Australia, and they're going to be helping me to identify these things that they're finding. Now, you see that? Those are the same fibers that I just showed you, and they are the same fibers that are on this lung, which is a human DNA tested lung. All right, and it's just, there's no question it's a lung. And it died in a great flood, flat as a pancake on that side. And even MIT agrees now there was a great boiling hot global flood caused by the impact of something they claim was many times larger than Mount Everest, which it actually was Venus bouncing off our atmosphere. All that was recorded, and they're starting to come around and admit these things. These kind of things they stay away from because they have no way to confront them rationally with their theories. Now, my theory is Velikovsky's accounts. I go with Velikovsky, and he said that we were almost hit by Venus, and it was only about 3,700 years ago, and it caused all these gigantic creatures to be killed. Now, what do we see here? First of all, we see that, plural. So to me, this is some kind of a flexible thing, which tendons are. And this could be tendons. Now, I have one here. It's virtually the same. I'm going to put it in a microscope. You'll see it's the same fabric. And what does it have? You see this? This little fracture piece. I look for the details. And what is that? Well, guess what? We have the same thing inside ours here. Now, what is this? You see that little layer right there? That's what I call a rind, which is nothing more than a flexible, floppy, slimy, surface that these things ride back and forth in the tendons. Now, this, I got to go with tendon. Now, he did send me something else which shows the belly of an alligator, and it has similar blocks, and it could be. I can't discount that. What we need to do is a little more investigation, and because this could be the belly of a croc or an alligator or something, and the arms could be coming off this way. I thought these were tubing coming out, and he sent me a whole bunch of stuff. And when I see this, that to me indicates one of the valves of a heart, and this is just saturated. That's raw blood. And that I showed you, I know I showed you the artery. That is just saturated with blood. That's not like tissue, it's not muscle, it's not anything other than just a big pile of blood. So I think this had tubing, and the heart is just saturated with tubing. I mean, there's tubing coming out of your earlobes. And there's blood in all, like there's blood in this rock here. I look for the details. That's blood. That was service in this rock, and this rock here had the same thing. It had blood in it. You can just barely see the colors anymore, but it died laying like this, and the color ran down this way. If I put water on here, you'll see a distinct difference between this color and that color right there. And basically, this looks like it actually had some blood vessels. Now, I don't know if I can find them in here. I don't think so, but I got some blood. I can see it heavy in the bottom. And when I put water on there, I probably will put it in a microscope. You can see. But this is the same fabric as we're looking at here. So I got a little of everything to show you here. And I got two now. They seem to be very willing and very nice guys over there in Australia. And we're going to figure some of this stuff out. Nobody's ever been able to figure it out. And he said, look at this stuff. I look at all kinds of details. So there was something in between this and that, and this, I'm not sure what it was. But there was some kind of this could have been the fluid-filled highway in there, which is empty now. But you see how perfect these are? And actually, when you see down in here, I mean, nobody engineered this. Nobody built this. That's just, you can wipe that right out of your mind. And there's no way in the world they would have got these fabrics in here. Those fabrics are natural fabrics, and they are balls and straps, just as I showed you in my belt. Balls and straps, my friend. Balls and straps. You see it? All those little black balls. Every one of them has, and in every one of those straps, it's not just one strap. These fibers are, there's literally thousands of fibers in every strap. You see this? Look, let me see if I can home in on it. You see that fuzz? That's one strap. It's just incredible, the details. Okay, my friends, genuine cowhide. Now, this shows you all the different details. They look like fibers, but once you spread that and splay that out, it turns into literally thousands of fibers. And can I prove that? Well, I think I can. First of all, let's just focus in and out of that a little bit. You see way down at the bottom? Look up here. You see these fibers? Sometimes you see them just as a single. But once they start to splay out, they look like that. Now that's a Getty image, but it is of a tendon fibril. Just exactly what I'm showing you. Exactly. All right, I want to explain to you. Things can look totally different with different lighting. You see what I got right there? This is that brick that I have here, which is basically the same as this brick here. All right, has the same fabric. Now that lighting shows it in a certain way, but you can see the fabric. That's not hard to see whatsoever. Now, this one I have, it's in the microscope, up in the screen here. You can see all of the blood and a lot of detail because I hardly have any light on it. When you put a lot of light on something, the white stuff will overcome everything else. Now, which I am going to do right now by turning up the lights. But you see all the red and you see the black and you see the white. That's the colors of the fabric of fascia and what they call slurpy, small leucine-rich proteins, membranes. Just think about it as membranes. Now watch, I'm going to turn this up a little bit. And you see all of a sudden you start losing the detail of the colors. All right, and then all of a sudden you see everything's pretty well washed out. And all you're going to see is the whites primarily. And that's what we're seeing down here. I think that's been eroded enough where a lot of the red, because the red erodes right out. Now, the brick I have here, I don't know, it must have come out of the ground not too long ago, because it still has all the really, really red, bloody stuff in it, as you can see up here. And as a matter of fact, you could easily get blood out of this. You see up here? That's a vein. That's vein blood, and that's artery blood. They usually run in similar areas, and that's where the source of those bloods and the return are, in this particular spot. And then there's going to be other spots that have more or less blood in them. And I can see that hole right there. Let me just put a little water on there, just for kicks. It'll only take a second. All right, you see the colors come out right away? That's the key with water. Everything hydrates quickly. Must have been a lot of dust on there or something. There's a lot of debris coming off of there. Let me get it out of the way. Now, let it dry up a second. And it doesn't take long. But that's the source of all of that red blood in this area. Here, let's assist the drying. Hold on. All right, I'm going to get this out of the way. Now, here we go. You see it? That's it right there. I got a little piece of fabric on there. Hold on. That's it right there. Now I'm going to come right down. And then again, when you change the light, watch. You see it? You can't miss it once you change the light and you get it just right. Now, I don't know how close I can get. I don't think close enough to really see it in good detail. But to me, that's it right there. That's the source of this red blood. All right, you got to look at the details. And again, that's the slurpy. Now I'm going to show you what I call the rind, because this is the rind, and it only goes for a short distance in, and then you turn into the black stuff like I showed you here. You see right there? This is going to have a rind on it just the same as this one here. And then you get into the black stuff. All right, the rind is going to be a certain thickness, and then the black stuff starts, which is, they would call that basalt. Let's take a look at the black stuff. And again, maybe we can find a place where we can see a rind down here. But look at this. You see that? That's a block. That's a block. That's a block. That's a block. This one, these run this way. These appear to run this way. You see that? If you look carefully, that's a line, a line, a line, all the way down. That's a line, a line. I think this is coming out this way. boy, I'll tell you, this is something. There's a lot to look at here, but this thing comes down, and you see it way up here, look. Block, 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 block. I don't know what to think anymore, I'll tell you. Every day is more exciting. It really is. It's just incredible. The amount of people that have been denied anybody to look at what they want to show. They just won't look at it. I had the same experience, and I still have it. But at least I'm getting people to talk to me and show me their experiences. Everybody was afraid to even talk in the beginning. Now they're starting to open up. And this stuff is undeniable anymore. So until the academics look at it, you have to disrespect their opinions on everything. They're just not being truthful anymore. Okay, my friends, this is way too cool. This is the rind. Now, I got the lights a little low. Right below that rind, you see this empty space right here? That is where the interstitium was. All right, that is where the membrane basically was. This is the Slurpee that lets this thing slide back and forth in the body. This layer right here is where the interstitium was. Now I'm going to turn the light up, and you see these little white fibers? Those are tendon fibrils. They're connective tissue basically, and I can show you. Let me focus in a little bit. But anyway, you can see this is stepped down a little bit because it's just empty there. Now, then you get into the tissue. And in this tissue, there is these little white fibers. And there's the same thing that you see in here. Now, let's look at this one here. This is the details. We saw the fibers. We saw the little black balls. It's the same. Now, this is the coating, which I showed you up above, which I call the rind. Then down in here is all the black stuff. And you can see there's some chunks of white in here. Well, that is connective tissue. Now, as I'm going to show you up above, remember what you're seeing here. You're seeing all the rind, and then you're seeing the connective tissue underneath. And then you're going to see all the black, which is body tissue. Now, I'm going to look at it up above, which is the one I have in the microscope, which is my specimen. You see the rind, you see the fluid-filled highway, you see the fleshy, all of these little white things are connective tissue, and there's more bigger ones. You can find bigger ones here and there, see? There's a big one there. They're all over the place, these little white fibers. That's the connective tissue that is inside of tendons. Now, I told you there's a spot on here where there's going to be a lot of red blood. Let me see if I can show you that now that we've got it up in the microscope. Okay, what we're going to be looking at is the broken end here. And inside this, there is the blood. I don't know if you can see the different texture of color there. One of them is lighter, and then it gets dark when you get down here, and it gets darkest at the bottom because that's where the blood pooled. Now, I am going to put some water on there. The next shot we're going to be seeing in the microscope, or we'll show it first, and you should be able to see that line right up there, and all this blood sort of puddled down here, and blood is dense and heavy, and it puddles right to the bottom, right there. Blood has a lot of metals in it. It's heavier than water. Okay, I showed you that virtually all this stuff is the same collagens and fascia that's on coatings that have to move and twist and so forth, have this heavy fabric on there, and exactly what it is. Now, I also said there will be blood in here, and I'm going to put the water on it right now, and you'll see the pattern of blood, because it must have died laying like this. It was originally was square, I'm pretty sure. Now, I broke off the other end of this, and this has the same thing as this has right here. I have another piece that comes out here. But I wanted to see, and there's a scale right there, you see? You see that? And right under there, there's going to be some blood. That's blood right under there. So, and as far as I'm concerned, this is a tendon, and it died in this orientation. But originally it was probably pretty flat. It's, you know, they're a little bit flexible. They sort of mold, and you can see everything drain down this way when you have Mudfossil eyes, which you will have uno momento. Let's take a look at that blood. All right, this should be pretty easy to see. This gray area up there at the top is the blood has run away from it, or has drained down to here, and pretty much pooled at the bottom. I think you should be able to see that. I can certainly see it. From here down, it's just sort of drained and pooled right at the bottom. And actually along this side, it might have just died laying like this, because it's kind of heavy up here too. But it's heavy over here too. So anyway, I don't know what to say. It's in that area. It has all pooled down to there. But you can actually see a center core. Almost everything will have a center to it. And I believe that's the center to this piece of tendon. And every tendon had its own stuff. Now we're going to look at this piece over here that shows right there. You see it? That's what we're going to be looking at next. And what we're going to see here is, I don't know what. It could be something all by itself over here, or it's, well, it's part of the tendon. You see, here's another spot where it's quite obvious there's a separation between the two. And here, though, we can see the actual layering of this, opposed to, we can see obviously the layering of this, but now we'll be able to see the layering of this part. So let's put a little water on there and check it out. Okay, my friends, this goes beyond cool to super cool to intensely super cool. This is the tendon that I have here. This is a little chunk of tendon, which is similar to the bricks. Now, here it is in the microscope with that broken spot being exposed. All right, so let's take a look at it and see what we see here. This is the surface coming out this way. It steps down into this bloody area and then into the tissue. Isn't that something? Look at this. It's a step down from the surface. This is the surface. All right, and that had all that little tendony, you know, little strappy stuff. Now we get to the edge of the surface and it fractured right here. So this piece right here is gone from here. Now we're down into the actual meat. Now let's come in close to that, because I'm way off right now. Hold on, let me get this comfortable here. All right, let's come way down on it. So don't forget, this is the surface. It steps down. This is the meat that's inside of the brick. It's just like if you took and broke this piece off here and looked down inside. That's exactly what we're seeing. Only all we did was, mine is just the scale is removed, and we're right down at a flat surface on the brick. You see it? So this is all flat here. You put a little more water on it. You see the difference in the way it steps down? That's the flat, it steps down, and then there's this piece. Now let it dry up, and then we're going to come, well, you know what, let me come right down on it right now. While it is drying, I will have to focus in carefully. And I will have to turn the lights down low. Now, that's the surface right there. I'll dry it up real quick, and before it gets, as long as it's real good and moist, you can see everything real well. You don't see it when it's dry all that well. You know, if you know what to look for, you know. You see how perfect that is now? Look. this is that surface that has all those different little strappy balls and all that stuff. I know you remember that. And this is basically like the thickness of my belt. And then you come down to the guy's muscle. It's almost identical. All right, and then this is the layer right below the skin, basically. That's the skin. I mean, this is what it is. And then you get that slurpy layer, and then after that layer, you come over to this layer right here, which is the tendon. And then there's this pocket right here. Something is going on there, and I'm not exactly sure what. But you can see the rind comes up to here. Let me focus that in. All right, the rind really is here. And then you get into the matrix of whatever's going on there. But the rind coats the whole thing. Now that is something. I don't know what that did. That might have been a real hard piece of tendon coming straight through. You see how it's very circular, and you know it's like a one of a kind on this particular piece of tendon. What it was, I don't know. I do not know. Let's see if we get a little closer on that. Focus. Well, that's about all I can do. That is something. Now let me play around with the light. This is where you got to play with the light. You see that circle? That's not an accidental circle there. You just barely got to get light. There it is right there. Now, that's not well, I don't know. I see a circle there. I don't know about you. Let me focus in on that. Something's going on there. There's a bundle of something right there. That whole area here, that's some kind of a bundle. And that's a heavy-duty piece of tendon right above it. This is a one-of-a-kind sort of situation, that chunk. So we got 3 steps. We got the outside layer up here, which we had all the balls and straps. We know about that. We come over to drop to the second layer right below, which is the membrane layer, which is the fluid-filled area. We go 1 layer below that, we're into the flesh. And then we go 1 layer below that, and we're into whatever that is, I'm not sure. But there's something going on there. Why that keeps going deeper, I don't know. I'm seeing something going on in this whole area. Was maybe a tendon bundle or something, I don't know. These are the mysteries of what I'm digging deep. I'm looking deep. And these are the kind of things I can find out from these guys. They're both, Rob and Adam, they sound very, very willing, and they're inquisitive. They seem like hell of a nice guys. And I don't think they're looking for anything, because they're not going to get anything. That's just the way life is. And maybe they could write a book or something that would be fabulous. Because wait till you see the things that Rob just sent me, just blowing my mind. And Adam, I think he has a bunch of stuff to present. And he also seems very interested. So this is, I'm excited. They seem to be excited. Well, you know, we're so excited. We just can't hide it. Let's just find out what we got. delve into the truth and the reality of life. And Australia is a place that I haven't really got my hands around yet. Well, I do to a degree. I understand Australia quite a bit because to me, Australia is nothing more than a scab. It's like a blob of blood. I mean, I'm not kidding you. That thing is nothing but blood. And that's why they have the opals there. Opals only form where there's a density of transition metals. The only where places a density of transition metals is where there's raw, dense blood. And you take a look at Australia, it's just completely red. It's a scab. It's like a big blob of blood. And there's things I can tell you about Ayers Rock, Uluru, whatever, and I have many times. It just blows people's mind. They just can't take the truth. It's hard to take. It is. I agree. But all of this stuff is hard to take, and that's why people have stepped away from it, and they're not confronting reality. You know, I call it perfectly happy deluded. PhD. Just, you know, let's just stay where we are. Everything's happy. Nobody's making waves. We make the rules. We tell them what to do, and they seem to be perfectly happy deluded. Now, I have literally dozens. Well, at least a couple dozen pictures from Adam about these anomalies that he's finding right in his backwoods out there in the Outback in Australia. And Rob has sent me a whole batch of stuff as well. And his stuff is like carved and like heads of things, and I don't know if they're real or not. This is what I want him to be able to do, is go out, and I believe he's right there on site, and he can do things. If I'm hoping he will. If I ask, he can present the evidence, and I'll show what he can present. Because you're going to have to tune in for the next episode to see that, because that's a whole nother realm, the stuff that Rob sent me. Now this is from Adam, and he's got some good stuff here, some serious stuff. You see this? I sent Adam this back. I said, yeah, there's some crazy stuff, and it's all over the world. This is from the Czech Republic. And somebody just sent me this. I don't think they want to be identified with it, but this girl, I don't know, she was about 10 years old, something like that. There's her legs, and she's standing way behind this, I think it's a gigantic flea or whatever not. But I can tell you, this is not fake. The green stuff grows on red blood biology. That's the only reason it's growing like this. This is on the surface of the earth, as is all my stuff. I didn't dig for my stuff. This is just laying here. And when you see what a flea looks like, it's almost identical. And a flea or a tick or whatever it could be would be loaded with red blood. And red blood makes things grow green. It's just, you buy blood meal to make plants grow green. And it works very well. I use it. All right, see, proof of my claims, blood meal. Organic gardening, lush growth, and deep greening, nitrogen. I mean, this stuff works very well. And this is for lush growth, lush organic growing, the growth stage. Then you get into the flowering stage. And that's where the bone meal. Phosphorus and calcium. That's for membranes. Phosphorus and calcium, that's membrane stuff. And for some reason, it works very, very well for the flowers. Promotes strong roots, early growth. That does work well for that too. Perfect bulbs, tubers, vegetables, flowering plants. Flowering is, I associate the bone meal as for the end stage flowering. And this is for heavy growth stage greening. Very, very deep greening. Deep greening blood meal. As far as I know, ticks and fleas consume blood. You see this? Okay, my friends, there's a flea. I mean, look at that sucker. I mean, sucker, it is a sucker. Now, look at this thing. Look at the legs and so forth. Very, very similar. And this thing is gigantic. I mean, it's huge. And as far as I'm concerned, I can see, I would have no possible way of saying this is fake. And nobody can. And if it was really, really examined closely, we could identify absolutely one way or the other. And look at this. This is not far. That's not far from what we're looking at. Now, and the stuff that we're talking about are gigantic. Look at this. This is just phenomenal. This blew my mind. You see what we're looking at here? I showed you in the microscope all the different fabrics and so forth. But we also got to look at the no-toe here. I want to show you that because that has the same fabric right here as all the rest of them do. And this is not a shoe. This is a no-toe. And I believe, you know, I haven't looked at this for many, many years. And I believe that right there, we might be able to see something. But this is the seam of where the toe is rocked up and forth. That right there is where the tibia came down, the main bone. The fibula sits on the side. They fall right off. It embedded right in here. And they just fall right off because they're just held by a couple of little ligaments. But this bone here rocks in this cradle. And I believe this has springs inside that rock on that pin. See, it's got almost like a regular sole, like a foot. But it's not a shoe. That's not a shoe. I'm going to guarantee you that. And I have to show you this, and I want to see it myself anyway. But now, what do we got here? Look at this. This is phenomenal. This blew my mind. My belt is one of the best sources I have. It's incredible. Look at this. Look at what you see. This is the surface of skin. I'm going to tell you right now, it's a surface of some kind of hide. And they have these things so you can stretch and pull and do all that kind of stuff. It's the floppy fabric. Then below you have your, you know, your fluid-filled highways and all that stuff, and the membrane layer. And then below that you've got some tissue layers. You see it? Now, I'm going to show you this in my belt. Look at this. This is my belt. Now, you got to understand what you're looking at here. Right from this, right up here, going down that way is the belt. We're looking down the sideways part of the belt. This is that floppy stuff right there. That's that floppy stuff. And this is really, here's what you got to see it correctly, is to get all this stuff out of the way. This is what we're looking at, is the floppy stuff right at the top, is what I showed you a second ago. And then the fluid-filled highway right below is this here. And then you get into the tissue with all the balls and straps and all that stuff. Now let's get back to what we were looking at a second ago. This floppy stuff right up here is this floppy stuff here. You see it? All right, this floppy stuff right here. So don't forget, that stuff is going down the side. This is the floppy stuff we're looking at. That is the skin. So you can do this and that, and it'll come back where it's supposed to be. This is the fluid-filled highway that says, you come through here, we're going to stop you. Anybody that's bad, we're going to get you out of here. That's the fluid-filled highway. And then below that is the tissue. And this is now understood about this fluid-filled highway. They never did understand it before. Here's these two together. That's the same shot as this. And there's the fluid-filled highway right there. Of course, it's unfluided now. This one is just, they do something to, they put some chemistry in here to stabilize things, and then they roll it and flatten it and stretch it, and then they put some kind of stuff on it. But you can clearly see the layers, and at the very bottom layer is where all those fibers are. At the split of the cowhide. That's split cowhide. Now, let's take a look at the no-toe here in a microscope. We're going to look at a couple spots. All right, so let's get started. All right, so this is the no-toe, and this is the seam. You have one just on your foot too. There's a bump that goes right up there, and there's a lot of blood in this area here. And there's a lot of fabric because it has to do this. Now this is a no-toe, so this is all one piece, and this is just, it's not a shoe. This is the foot, and it's all one piece, and it's engineered. I believe these are like springs, and there's a little pin right there that those springs rock on. And we have several different types, but the toes are encased in this. Now, you see where I am here on that seam? That seam has to flex. We're going to see a lot of fabric in there. Normally the fabric isn't sort of stretched like this, but as I showed you in my belt, this is going to be almost like the holes in my belt. This is so far beyond bizarre, it's crazy. Don't forget, I'm going to show you two sets of fibers. One of them is going to be here that's haven't been stretched and so forth like my belt loop. And one of them is going to be here that is like my belt loop. Okay, this one shot here shows everything at once. This is some red blood here. This is an artery blood here. Which the artery is red blood. The black is the vein blood. And this is all the fibers because we're in one of these stretched out areas. And watch this. Now, I'm going to probably put some water on here. But if we step away from that towards this area here, you see this? This has not been stretched. All the balls are there. And all of this stuff is here. It's dry. That's why you can't. I'm going to put a little water on it to see it a little better. But you can see there's black. There's red. The fibers are in here, and that's just the skin. That's the guy's skin. All right, now I put a little water on here. We're going to come back to up here, where we're going to see that fiber. That's that crack, that seam. All right, so let's put a little water on it. Let's tune it in here a little better. We put some water on it. You'll see that seam is showing up the same as all my other stuff I showed you, all the other fabric stuff. Like that, like what you saw right there is identical to what you saw here in the lung, and the same with that brick I showed you, and it's the same as the one of the brick in Australia. Fabric and things that move and stretch, like this foot where it moves and stretches, it's going to have that fabric to it, which keeps it so that it doesn't just fall apart. Just like a belt. It's a belt. It is the same as a belt. And this here is even better. This is probably the best shot to show. But I'm going to show up here, and then I will show back there. So let me put a little water on both of these spots, then we'll take a look at them. And this one back here, I can clearly see the vein and the artery. All right, so what are we looking at here? This is the fabric of the foot, and that is the seam where we can see the different fibers. All right, I just dried it up a little bit. You see the difference? It's quite apparent, as they would say down in Australia. Now, this is, and I love these guys. This is fabulous. I'm thrilled to have them, and I think they're thrilled to be able to do this, because you know, you find these things and you want somebody to pay attention to you, and nobody will. Now this, you can see this is the fabric that lays in between the hide. It's literally hide, and that is part of the hide. It's exactly like my belt. And if we came out here, which we are right now, you can see all the little balls and everything. No, and the hide has its own texture. Now we're going to come way over to where the no-toe is. I've got water on there. Now let's work our way over there. Hold on. All right, don't forget, we're at the surface here. Now we're coming out down to where we're going to drop down onto the guy's toe, which is inside of this. That's the guy's toe. Now, Is it a bone? I don't know. Is it a toenail? I'm not sure. But when we go down deeper and deeper, we can see it gets more and more bloody and body tissue down in here. That's just body tissue. So up here, I would say that's the toenail. This part right here is the toenail, which is just below, and this is part of the toenail, the whole thing, which is just below the surface layer, which is up here, which is the actual leather. So that's the guy's foot now. That's not a shoe. And if we go back from that, we go back to his regular skin, all the way back till we get to that seam. Well, I can't get to it. Well, yeah, there's some right there, where we can see there's a very, very distinct difference in the tissue. Now, when we come way over here again to his toe, we're going to drop down from the surface. This thickness right here is the hide. It's the hide. It's not a shoe, it's a hide. Now we're on to what appears to me to be the toenail. And I can show you a toenail I have here that crystallized and has the exact same patterning. Well, I'll show it to you right now. All right, let's see if I can substantiate my claims that this rock right here has the same patterning as this. However, this was exposed, not fractured. This one I broke to get in. Well, I can't remember whether I broke it to get in there or it broke by itself, but I can see these layers, which is the way I do things, to see what I can see. So there was the pattern of the texture of the outside of the skin. That's the layers of the skin. Now we're on to what would have been a toenail if it was exposed. But this has been underneath this layer, so it didn't siliconize. All right. Well, let me show you what I mean by that, because this one did. And here's what we got. What I'm showing you right here is this. Basically, it's the same thing as that. So this layer is on top of that. That layer's gone, and we're looking at the toenail. And you say, Roger, how could that be a toenail? Well, because that is the callus of the guy's foot. That's the callus of his toe. You see that bump right there? And this is all red blood out here. That's all red blood. I could show you this in a microscope, which I will. And it took on a lot of silicon. But that right there, that is the callus of the guy's toe. These feet were really oddball feet. I'm telling you, it was crazy. This is not a foot. This is a toe. And it has a callus just like ours right there. I have other ones the same. I have a gigantic one. It has a callus on it. It's a monster callus. It's about this thick. I got my compressor-driven chiseler that I was thinking about chiseling the thing off. It's gigantic, and it's no question whatsoever. It's a gigantic toe with a callus. Absolutely, no question whatsoever. I've shown it a number of times. This is my claim. That's the guy's callus right there. Now let's look at it in the microscope. Obesity breakthrough. All right, now this is spectacular stuff. But anyway, here we're going to take a look at this in the microscope and take a look at the layers of tissue and the callus. And even back here, we should be able to see somewhere where the blood comes in. And I believe this is the red blood side, and that is the vein side. But I could be wrong. Let's take a look in the microscope. All right, I'm going to show you something truly amazing. You see that circle right there? You see it? And these triangular looking pieces coming down, and this circle with the button right in the center of it. You see that? You see this triangular looking piece coming around? And it's latching underneath that, really. Because this is the fabric of the skin. You see it coming in and coming in over here? And that locks all of this fabric together. I know it sounds crazy. When I first saw that, I said, what the hell is that? At first I said, it's got, somebody put a button on here or something. But that's the way the triangles lock with these central investments. And they snap it in position so that that fabric can't rip away. That's what I have found, because it's all fabric, but it's all tied into one spot. And in this case, it's right here. And that latches it and locks it in position. And it's very distinct. I mean, I don't see how anybody can miss that. And again, it's all these triangular pieces. I show this many times. And it's not just here or there, it's just on everything. They all have the same thing. I mean, I've shown this one a million times. That right there is that triangular piece right there. Well, you know what? Let me just show you that so we can get past this triangular thing. All right, this is the best way to do it. This is a living fascial latch. You see that? That is supposed to lock this piece of whatever it is, whether it's an organ or a muscle or a tendon, lock it into wherever it's supposed to be locked into. This has ripped. Sports injury. Somebody overstressed this area. Now, this also has fluids running through there to the next organ. Now, here's what I have here. This is my rock right here. All right, this is that same orientation. This is nothing but a piece of meat. Nothing but a piece of meat. And this flap right here, there's two little white dots down the bottom here. Or actually, I guess they're right here. And that's where the fluid transfers into the next organ. And right back here, there's a central spot right there, which is where this locks in. And that's that button on this foot. That's the button. If you look at it careful, you can see that little round circle. Well, actually the whole thing is a round circle. And that's the central button. You see that? That's the central button. And this whole thing is the latch. And it is tough. That stuff is tough. Right in here, that's this right here. It comes up over the top, and then it snaps in with that button. And then right in the center is the button. That's the button right there. And that whole thing is the latch. And then from there it fans out and turns into, you know, just fascia, which is this kind of stuff, which is just, coats everything. And it has the membrane, and everything is coated with this membrane, very thin though. And all the fluids run through that membrane. That's the fluid-filled highway that I've been showing over and over. And this is it in my belt. There it is right there. I'm telling you, this is beyond unbelievable. But that is the wrinkled skin. And that is the same thing as I showed you here. I think I showed it to you. Is these people standing in front of this saying, what the hell is this? Well, it's wrinkled skin. Who doesn't know that? And down here, what's that? Well, it's a fluid-filled highway. They call it these, they're stitching now. This is just beyond belief. It's just so bizarre. And when I saw this, because I was looking for the balls on the side, if they crush them on the side, on the ends. They flatten everything out. And they're all broken flat, as I showed you, and all of these fibers are sticking out. So I was looking to see what they look like in between the layer. And then I saw this, and then I saw the skin up at the top, and it just freaked me out. Absolutely freaked me out. This is the fluid-filled highway. And these are the little tendon balls. They're all over the place. And every one of them has one of these straps. As I have shown you, they all have the straps. But when it's in the belt form, you don't see them. You never even know they're there. You got to do some investigating to find them. And fortunately, they were right here where my belt buckle pulled. And then when you look to see what one of these things is made out of, it freaks you out. Because this is what they're made out of. It's just... And this has got to be so far beyond magnified that it's unbelievable. And there's just literally thousands and thousands of them in every single one of these fibers. I would say, I don't know, maybe, well, I would say there's a lot of them. There is a lot of them in each one of these fibers, and every ball has a fiber. You see all the balls? This ball has pulled out a little bit. Look at all those fibers coming out of here. Very, 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 very interesting. To me, some people find it not interesting at all. I do. I find it interesting as can be. That looks like some kind of crazy little face. Look at that. That's the side of the toe. I think I'm going to use that for a thumbnail. Look at this. This is outrageous. This is the side of that toe that had the shiny little flakes. And these are I believe the arteries. The other side will have the veins, but the veins don't blow out, so you really can't see them. The arteries are quite clearly seen. And that is red blood. They were red-blooded creatures. All right, my friends. This is why I love doing what I do. Because I try to make explanation for things, you know, realistic explanations. And I like to present physical evidence to support that. Now, Rob Humphreys, who tipped me off to the Australian guy, the hiker, Adam, and I'm in communication with him. He seems like a nice guy. And so does Rob. And Rob mentioned this. He said, maybe this is the tiles that you're seeing in the video that Adam did, which was these square blocky tiles. Now, this is not exactly the same pattern. This is an American crocodile or American alligator. But who knows? But I would have never considered that. Now, here's the reason I'm so intrigued by this. I could see patterns of brick. They look like bricks. And they were formed in a curve, something like that. And then I was seeing a heart. I was thinking a heart. Because I could see there was like a valve coming off a tube. Well, it could be an arm. It could be a leg. I never thought about it. But inside, and it had eroded away, and inside you could see all kind of you know, blood and so, but it looked to me like it was the inside of a artery. I don't know. And I did see some other things that indicated to me that it looked like a heart. But there's so much to reconsider and to think about when you start to think about things. And I would have never given that a second. I never even considered it. I never even thought about it. So thank you, Rob. Okay, my friends, stay tuned because I got my Australia guys. I got people all over the world now. This is new information about the walls down in Peru and Bolivia and all this stuff that I had never encountered before. And I am going to expose this about these walls. I mean, I've talked about what the walls are made of and how they formed and all that. But now I'm finding that they were backfilled. I believe. We're going to be looking at this. They're not built right against some existing, you know, mud wall. This looks like backfill to me. That's not just natural. This over here looks like they made a wall out of that. This, what it's for and why this comes out, These are the kind of things we're going to investigate. But I'm going to tell you right now, that is backfill. And it looks to me like they put this wall up, and it was probably, I don't know where it went to, and then they filled this stuff behind the wall, not had the wall here and then built that against it. I think it was the other way around. They built the walls and then they put this up. These are the kind of things I like to understand. I try to figure out the mechanism behind virtually everything they're doing. And we should be able to, because, you know, like I say, I got people all around the world now. If they can get up close and personal, and look down in here, look here, look what it is, look where these seams are, all these kind of things, very, very close up. And Adam and Rob are very willing to do that, so I'm very willing to have their help. And I mentioned Rob's channel. I mean, Adam's channel. It's Australian Seeker. I got to look it up. I got to be honest with you. It skipped my mind. But you'll see it. I'll mention it. Go to see what he's got. He's got a ton of stuff. And Rob has a ton of stuff too. And the stuff he's got just blew my mind. Carvings in these, they look like stone faces. And I mean, it's pretty amazing. And now, if he can get up right close and look at this thing real close, all these things, we can really make a determination of whether we can, you know, see them as likely being real or not. Because there's nothing that anybody would have ever accepted as being real until Mudfossils came along and really proved it. It's proven now. It's the time for the mind to open up and examine it, and then say, oh, no, Roger, you're wrong because of this, that, and the other thing. Right now, it's just dead silence. And I don't blame them. What are they going to say? The only thing they can do is to start talking about it, and then they're going to have to accept it. And once they accept it, a whole new world opens up. And that's what I'm looking to do. And, you know, for me, my life is getting towards the end. So I want to find truth. That's all I really care about as far as myself goes. Now, and again, I never thought there was much of an eternity. I never gave it much thought. I just thought it was all nonsense because there was no physical evidence that I ever found. And now I find all the physical evidence you could possibly even imagine, and there's no appetite for it. Everything's just switched backwards. It's crazy. Anyway, I love you all. Stay tuned. This is going to be interesting because I'm going to show a lot of stuff people have never seen before. And we're going to try to examine the anatomy. Like I said, there's nothing that isn't anatomical, biological, came from somewhere. And when they started talking about a big bang, everything just popped out of nowhere. Well, I don't know where it all came from. But to think that was just some kind of natural event, that everything happens from nowhere and it just all goes expanding out into the universe, that's one of the weakest arguments I've ever heard. It's just incredibly weak. And then when you look at all that's been written throughout history about gods, giants, dragons, every single culture, 100%. And they said they had battles in the heavens, and they actually stated that they saw creatures fighting and battling, killing each other in the skies. That was all written. That's not my claims. That's all was written by every single culture on Earth. They all had basically the same story. A little tweak here, a little tweak there, but, you know, that's every single one, 100%. You show me one that didn't have that stuff, and I'd like to hear about it, because it doesn't exist. All right? I love you all. Goodbye.